Okay, you can start now.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Najeeb Ranginwala. Thank you. We can recite Durood Sharif. Everybody can recite Durood Sharif. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for coming. I'm first of all thankful for Allah to giving me opportunity to talk to you, and through this site, other people can hear. So that was a great service. I'm thankful for Allah for providing that service to me in my lifetime. So I'm grateful for Allah. I'm thankful for the people who are organizing it. That is very kind of them to allow me to do that. And I'm also thankful for the audience to take time to listen to it. I know some places is an odd time, so but that shows your interest of learning and go from there. So briefly, I can tell you about myself. So I'm a geriatric psychiatry training from UT Southwestern Medical Center in psychiatry, geriatric psychiatry, and research in geriatric psychiatry. Now I'm in the semantic brain and behavior, and basically I'm teaching also here. So we will go into this session. Basically, last time we talked about self-esteem from the psychology and Islamic perspective. In that presentation, I went into the core concept, which is different in psychiatry or psychology versus Islam. And so I explained the difference. So at least you're aware the core concept. Once you learn the core concept correctly, you can identify and go to a high self-esteem. But if your core concept is wrong, then you always get confused why I'm not having high self-esteem. The book of Hikmat is here, the Sira is there. So why I'm not? So core concept has to be corrected. And so I went into that detail. And then pretty much in the next presentation, can you go to the next slide? Yes. So in the next presentation, basically, I went into, in fact, this was also from the first presentation. We went into automatic thoughts and alternate thoughts. What are those? And then going into biases, fallacies, cognitive dissonance, and ego conflict. These are significant factors affecting your self-esteem, the way you think, and way you act. Correct? So this also keep in mind it's happening in your conscious mind and unconscious mind. I emphasize strongly on unconscious mind because we don't work on your unconscious mind, those factors. So we went into detail in the first presentation. And in the second presentation, we went into the ego conflict because we want to figure out, is the ego conflict causing our low self-esteem? Very important to understand, where is the ego? Where is the ego conflict? So we went into detail about that. That what are the ego conflicts, how it affects your self-esteem, and what can you do to make a ego conflict, a mature ego conflict, so that your concept is like how to deal with the world, and then you have a high self-esteem. And that's significantly important, knowing that it's your in unconscious mind also, because these ego conflicts are sitting in your unconscious mind. So we went into the example of that and explained to you that, and that will help your self-esteem. Interestingly, during that same time, the question of came up is what's the importance of your akal is, correct? So this is what I want to go through this in this slide. That what is your akal is, and where. So these are the questions you need to think. What's the influence of akal on your qalb and nafs? That's a very important question to ask in your lifetime, and you better need to know that answer because you're accountable to Allah one day or another, today or tomorrow. So, you need to know that. And this, where does the akal need memory? Correct? What are the, to function? Because does akal need memory to function? And where's the memory located? You need to know that. Because akal, what is akal and which is connected to memory or not? And how can I increase my self-esteem knowing my akal, my hikmat, my kal, nafs and ruh? These are very important questions we need to answer ourselves. So in this presentation, I'm trying to address those questions. And hopefully, wallahu alam, Allah knows the best, but this is what I think, and I will go the best way, applying psychiatry and Islamic concept together to make you understand. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So this is when we are talking about uh, concept of akal, we need to understand a lot of things. Uh, Akal came from, if you go into detail, what is akal? Akal came from the classical Arabic, which is called fussa, correct? You need to understand what is akal, exact meaning, the core concept. Akal means intellect in a righteous pathway. Intellect towards righteous pathway. It came from the core word you need to understand, akala, which is like a rope leading to a right direction. That is what akal means. So when Allah is using the word akal in this, it's saying that the knowledge is going towards the direction of the righteous pathway towards Allah. This is what akal means. So need to understand from the context of the Quran that what akal means. And this is what akal means is the intellect with a righteous pathway. So very important to understand that. So for the akal to work, we need to know does the akal need memory or not, right? Means you make decision making. So where the decision making is taking place, which part of the body is the decision making place? And from the neuroscience, we exactly know which part of the body the decision making takes place. So that's why I gave this is this the actual human brain showing the frontal lobe where the executive decision making take place. Dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, orbitofrontal cortex, and all these areas where the executive decision, your wisdom, and all those taking place from that area, correct? Then you have the other area in the middle, which is the hippocampal formation. Hippocampal formation is where the main memory center is over there. And then you have a temporal lobe and all those backside of the brain and all those. And this is actually the actual brain you're seeing. So at least you know where is the executive decision taking place, where the memory is stored, and all those things. So let's talk about the memory, because if you're talking about akal, you need to know the memory system. If you don't know, then you will have a problem because akal goes with the memory system. And so that's why. So if you don't have the memory, how can you use the intellectual thinking, correct? So let's go to the next slide. So in your brain, you have a long-term memory and a short-term memory, correct? So the short-term memory, we exactly know we do it for a short period of time, within 5-10 minutes. What we remember, that's a short-term memory. Long-term memory is lasting for hours to days, correct? Or years, correct? So in long-term memory, you have two types. One is a declarative type and one is non-declarative type. So the declarative type, which is explicit memory, is usually coming from your conscious mind. And the non-declarative memory or implicit memory is coming from unconscious mind. I explained in much detail in the first presentation what is conscious mind and unconscious mind. And you need to understand where the memories are coming from, which part, right? Because akal goes with the memory system. Okay, so you have in the declarative memory, you have the episodic memory, like anything took place at some time or place, you remember it, correct? And then the semantic memory is the memory about knowledge, about object, language, and all those. These are factual memory. These are, most of them is in your conscious mind. The unconscious mind, most of the memory which is in non-declarative are procedure memory, like how you ride a bicycle, right? And all those things which you learn the procedure, you don't have to think, you will do it. These are procedural memories, correct? How you do the typewriting, correct? Or you do type the thing, correct? All those things. These are procedure memory. You don't need to think about it to press the button with the finger, correct? These are procedure memory coming from your unconscious mind. The other is perceptional receptive system, priming. This is also coming from unconscious mind. Then other is a classical condition. The psychiatry goes in detail what are the classical kind of Pavlov dog and all those things. So these are classical conditions sitting in your unconscious mind. You don't have to think about it. And then non-assertive learning, your habits. So you develop a bad habit, it's coming from your unconscious mind. Sometimes bad habits does not resolve because it's your program in your unconscious mind to do that, right? If you're a liar from your habit, sometimes it's difficult because it's coming from your unconscious mind. So you have to spend time on your unconscious mind to correct that habit. Right. So I'm explaining why it's very important to understand where the memory is stored, how to correct it. Right. And this is all connected to your akal. Right. So let's go to the next slide. So this slide goes into your areas of the brain where memory is stored. You have a particular area, we already know hippocampal area where episodic memory is stored, amygdala, emotional memory is stored, correct? You have cerebellum, procedure memory is stored, correct? Entorhinal cortex, a very important area where semantic memory is stored, and then basal ganglia where procedure memories are stored. So these are subcortical structure or unconscious mind where the memory is stored. Then you have neocortical or cortical structure, the frontal lobe, temporal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital. These are the area where memory is stored also. So as you understand, the memory is stored not only in the hippocampal area, but the other areas of the brain too. So when the akal wants to use and make a decision, it also get it from other areas where the memory is there. Okay, so it's also coming from conscious mind and unconscious mind. So it's very important to understand this. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so you need to understand where the neurons are generated for your memory. It's in the hippocampus area, the dentate gyrus. So from C3 to C1, this is the area where hippocampus is, where the memory, actually the neurons are produced and generate and send it to the brain. So we exactly know where the neurogenesis is taking place in your body, correct? So this is happening all means throughout your life. In fact, it's much slower later on in your life, correct? But much more when you're growing up. And that's why we want to make sure that neurogenesis keeps on going, correct? So you don't develop memory issue. And this is where it develops. So this is a structure which you need to understand, where entorhinal cortex, where memory neurons are developed and sent into your brain, where memories, the memory neurons for the memory is, correct? So just to have an idea. Okay, let's go to the next slide. This is my paper when we were looking at the diagnostic criteria of Alzheimer disease, still good after all these years. So we look into the 313 autopsies. These are the patients who have initially diagnosed with Alzheimer disease. Alzheimer disease is the most common memory disorder. And then we looked at these people have because they were alive, so we diagnosed them Alzheimer, and then after 10 years, most of the, I mean, all of them pass away as in the during 10-year time. After 10 years, we have the brain, we did the autopsy, and then look from the histology where was it was diagnosed correctly or not, right? And then we published the results in the American Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry. These are 313 patients. So we all found that the memory is stored in your brain, in your mind. So there where the memory is. Because if somebody says memory is stored in somewhere else in your outside your brain, then I like to see that, because somebody who has memory problems, we look at the brain. We don't look at the heart or other areas of the brain, other areas of the body, right? And I have not found a literature coming from academia that they're looking for memory problem from the heart. So I just want to let you know, if they know it, please let me know. Academia from the academic point of view. So just want to let you know. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So when we are looking at the way how intelligence works, as we mentioned that we have intelligence, and to work with intelligence, or we are talking about akal, Um, in the academic setting, when we are looking for intelligence, we are looking at the fluid intelligence, the crystallized intelligence, memory learning, visual perception, auditory perception, retrieval ability, cognitive speeding, and processing speed. These are all the component of your intelligences. When we do neuropsych testing on a patient, we are looking at all these things and trying to figure out where the intelligence is, where the memory is, correct? So these are the things, and this is published in Human Intelligence and Brain Network, so you can review that, okay? So you just have idea, that's what we do. Next slide. These are a mapping of intelligence from academic setting. So you just have an idea, and I just highlight that thing, published in a Dialogue of Clinical Neuroscience. But you can read a lot of articles that have been published, tons of articles. So the discrete brain region is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex area number, and the parietal cortex should be considered the most important human intelligence. So you have a stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. So where the intelligence. So if you look at the intelligence of a person is a prefrontal cortex, where you do sijda, just behind the sijda area, the brain of that area is where the executive decision making taking place, your intelligence is taking place. That's why Allah like your sijda, correct? When you do dua by doing sijda, why you're doing it? That's the importance of it. You're putting your ego on the ground. You're telling Allah, I don't exist. Everything belongs to you, correct? I don't have anything. That's why Allah likes you. Your sajda also likes you so much. So because it's telling you your process of thinking is taking place over there. Your akal concept is sitting over there. And you're telling that, please give me some wisdom, hikmat, so I can learn better, correct? So that's why it's very important from neuroscience point of view. It is over there, and we have found out these pathways and all those things. So at least you have an idea how the intelligence work, how it is staging, and all those things. And intelligence need memory system. You cannot do intelligence or akal without a memory, correct? So I need to explain that. Let's go to the next slide. So the most important thing you need to understand is hypothalamus. This is somewhere in the center of your brain. This is the center of your autonomic nervous system, correct? Autonomic nervous system supply to your heart, the sympathetic and parasympathetic, the vagus nerve. So the control of this is coming from hypothalamus, which is in the brain. So do you understand how the brain is helping and controlling the heart? This is the main regulatory center for your endocrine function, your heart rates, and all those things. And then you have a brain stem, which all the other centers like breathing and all those things take place. So your brain is working all the time, even when you're asleep. If that is knocked out, then you pretty much cannot breathe. That's why we do anesthesia. But when we do anesthesia, we make sure the brainstem is active, brainstem is connected to the brain, correct? So it's the brain who is controlling the heart. So it's very important to understand. That's why, and all those neurotransmitters are around the hippocampal area, going to the frontal lobes and all the other lobes where the critical decision is taking place. So you have a hippocampus, which is the most memory center area. You have amygdala, the emotional center, and you have thalamus and caudate nucleus sitting over there. So you have a whole gist of things over there sitting there in the brain that does that, right? So very important to understand from neuropsychiatry point of view that these are area in your brain sitting there and your neurotransmitters there. So that influence your thinking process. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. So this is also explain how these are connected to your frontal lobe and you make executive decision making, the prefrontal cortex that makes the executive decision making, and it get feedback from throughout the brain. So you have a conscious mind and unconscious mind that helps the decision making, correct? Then let's go to the next slide. This is the slide showing that you do structure imaging, correct? So you do, when you do functional imaging like fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging, you ask a person to do some activities, and when the blood flow and all the changes in oxygenated and deoxygenated hemoglobin take place, it is captured, and you can see the frontal lobe get lit up. That tells the person is making a decision, and that lobe lit up to show that this area of the brain is more active. So I just want to let you know this is by fMRI, we are catching people while doing activities and scanning the brain at the same time to see where the activities in the brain, and it's always in the prefrontal cortex taking place. So it just give you idea where the brain activity is happening when you are thinking or intellectual thinking is taking place. Let's go to the next slide. Now I'm going to apply everything. So this is what we want to talk about, correct? So this is Islamic concept, and now you need to understand this slide very well because this is where you need to understand. So we talk about the Ru concept, and I explained to you we have two things. We have conscious mind and unconscious mind, right? Ru is, I can say it, if you understand to the highest moral values of Allah, then it's like a super, Ru is completely pure and all those things. But if super ego, if you relate with highest moral value given by Allah, as superego, then it looks similar to Ru, correct? We discussed that about that. So it has an influence on your qalb, which we say it's your ego or your mind, correct? And then the qalb is the main center that controls your nafs or the id or yourself, correct? So this is the pathway we already discussed in the past. You have it in your system, correct? Quran talk about ruh, qalb, and nafs. Psychiatry talk about id, ego, and superego, correct? The question comes, and this is where why your nafs goes to different direction, like mutmainna or lawama or the other ones, correct? Amara. Why the nafs goes? Because it is controlled by your qalb, the influence of the qalb, how much influence the qalb has, correct? As we mentioned, you have an ego conflict happening in your qalb, correct? So if you don't have an ego conflict, you will be at the level of altruism, and all those defense mechanisms. So you are happy, contented, correct? So your nafs will go to nafs mutmainna because it has complete taking from ruh, the purest form, influence on it. And the nafs has only one way to go is nafs mutmainna, correct? Remember that you also have alternate or thoughts also, correct, which affects your akal as well as your qalb. So you have biases, fallacies, cognitive dissonance, and these biases can corrupt your qalb or akal. And when they corrupt that, your qalb will go away from nafs mutmainna to nafs lawama or nafs amara. So these are the things that will push the nafs to go to other direction. So if you have akal and akal takes you to the right direction, it will help slow down the concept of the biases, fallacy, cognitive dissonance, makes the cult very strong, going to nafs mutmainna, correct? And then you have hikmat. What is hikmat? Hikmat is a righteous wisdom, right? So it is a righteous wisdom going in a righteous pathway. So you need akal to have hikmat, correct? Hikmat requires akal, but akal does not have hikmat. So this is something you need to understand. Allah give you hikmat when you have akal. So akal is a lower level, hikmat is a higher level, correct? According to somebody which went into detail, what is hikmat? The righteous wisdom is doing the correct moment with the correct way and the correct purpose. What do you mean by correct moment? Knowing when to act, the timing, correct? So you that like look at the example Huzur says after he got revelation from Allah, he didn't start preaching to the people of Makkah, the Islamic, because he need to know what is the correct time to do that. And he took a while and then did. So that's the correct moment. The second is the correct way, knowing how you're going to act on it. You know, how the wording is, how you present the thing. That's hikmat and the correct purpose, way to act intelligently and the right way. That is hikmat. So you need akal, but hikmat is a higher level of interacting the same information at the right time, right place, and right moment. That's hikmat. And Allah gives you when you have akal. Keep in mind, your ego conflict has to be resolved, correct? Or you have a mature defense mechanism, altruism, humor, and things like that. So that will help you. So this is the concept you need to understand that from psychiatry as well, you know, that's explained very well why we are far behind in our thought process, that we already have Book of Hikmat for so many years, you know, in our lifetime. So why we are still sitting around with our nafs lawama, or let's say Amara, why we are, you know, when the Book of Hikmat is there, the Sira is there, because of these pathways, because we have ego conflicts, we have biases, fallacy, cognitive dissonance, and we are not using the proper akal. So of course the hikmat is not going to come. So the ruh is there in you. It's your fitra. It's in you. But the only thing is that it's not affecting you because of all these shortcomings. Let's go to the next slide. Now, this is a combination of both. Once you understand this slide, this tells you the more detail about it, correct? So I explained on the right side, these are the people who are pious, or, you know, the people who are moment, correct? They have the hikmat, they have the akal, they have no ego conflicts or healthy ego, and they don't have biases, fallacies, or cognitive dissonance. So their nafs goes to nafs mutmainna, correct? But people who are not the moments, or, you know, what they're having is ilm, the knowledge, correct? They may have ego conflicts, although they may have biases, fallacies, cognitive dissonance, correct? You know, you can be evil genius, correct? And that definitely affects your qalb. You know, and it affects your qalb, because then the qalb is corrupted with this thought process, correct? And so it's not going to listen to the Ru concept, correct? And it will follow the nafs to the Amara, or nafs lawama. Most of the people in nafs lawama, they're floating left and right. So these are the reason why people do that, correct? Because they are corrupted by the evil knowledge, evil genius, with biases, fallacy, and cognitive dissonance, with ego conflict. So then their nafs is going in that direction. So we need to correct these things. That will help us our self-esteem. Then when we remove all these things and use our akal and remove our biases, fallacy, and cognitive dissonance, and our hikmat, then we will develop high self-esteem. Akal is significant power, but when we keep on using akal, the hikmat will come with Allah's blessing. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So in neuroscience, we talk in detail about intelligence. So I just want to tell you, this is from neuroscience and neurology and psychiatry. What they say about intelligence: intelligence, the ability to process information in adaptive sequence. There's a long history of intelligences. People from the West, or people from psychology and psychiatry, have gone in minor detail of intelligence. So Alfred Bennett, who was a French psychologist in 19th century, was the first one who suggested of IQ. Then Stanford University in 1920, they developed Stanford Bennett test, which is heavily weighted from verbal scale, correct? Because before it was a French, now at the Stanford University in California, it became the English version. So then it became Stanford Benefit test. Then Wechsler scales were developed, which include the non-verbal skills and like math and all those things. So that is another way of assessing the intelligence. So these all tests predicts the ability of success at the school. These intelligence from the psychology just predict the success in the school. We can go to the next slide. Now, in psychology, we have Charles Spurman, who suggested journal factor for intelligence, or G factor. And this gives the prediction of academic performance and future job performance. That's what they figure out. And then Howard Gardner suggested a type of intelligence. So we talk in IMS a lot about emotional intelligence and social intelligence. So this was Howard Gardner in 1990s. And then later on in neurology and psychiatry, where Cattell and Hahn suggested journal factor. This is the newer concept where it says human has fluid intelligence, crystallized intelligence. Let's go to the next slide. So you have crystallized intelligence, which has a long-term memory. You have a fluid intelligence, which does not require long-term memory. It's an inductive reasoning. You just pairing you look at the pattern pairing and all those things. So you don't need a long-term memory. So memory is very important for your intelligence, because in memory you need coding, storing, and retrieval and forgetting things, correct? And these all, and then when your executive decision taking place, it takes in the frontal lobe. So you need to understand where executive decision is taking place, where akal concept is come, where the hikmat concept comes, and how it affects your qalb, because it's very important. It does affect your qalb significantly to redirect your nafs to a proper direction. Nafs mutmainna, correct? So we need to understand what's the behavior science is teaching and what Quran is teaching, and this is what I'm trying to combine together to make you understand. Hopefully, that is helpful. You may have a lot of questions. I'm ready to take it.
You can raise your hand or unmute if you have a question.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Walaikum salam.
My question is that how we can retain our study what we learn every day, how we retain it for a long time, like we Hifz Quran, we want Hifz Hadith and strategies like this.
Okay, that's a very good question. So, how are you going to retain Quran and Hadith in our real life? Correct? Is
Yes,
that's the question?
exactly. Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
very good. Retain Quran and Hadith. To retain Quran and Hadith, you have to understand your niyat. Rabbi zid, you have to understand your first of all, what is your niyat? Because it is very important to understand that concept. Your unconscious mind is controlling your conscious mind, correct? If you have any doubts in what you're learning, your memory and your thinking will conflict at unconscious level, correct? Very
Right.
simple, because that is in your human nature, correct? If you don't feel like, you will doubt about it, right? So you need to understand your intention and your intention, how you're going, and your niyat, correct? Once you do that, you have to trust it, you know, and get enough knowledge and quite and have an intellectual discussion, you know. So when you do intellectual discussion, you have to be open minded, not one way or highway, you know. There's a concept in Quran where you cannot explain. You take that concept and say, like concept of ruh, correct? Allah has already told you, you won't, there's a limited knowledge given to you and Allah knows the best, correct? You don't question that. But something which is there, which can be perceived, you should go into that. Once you have active discussion, you know, one is called passive learning and one is called active learning. And the third is called implicit learning, correct? So when you do implicit learning, where you do active and passive learning, means read it, hear it, have active discussion, then you will understand the Quran. You have to understand the Quran from this context, correct? Quran has used the metaphors in and out, all the places. You have to look at the Quranic words where it was used before and make the meaning together, that does it aligns with that. If you look at if you read in Quran, initially, alcohol was not totally forbidden, correct? It was told slowly, stop drinking, and then was told it's forbidden to drinking alcohol. So somebody can say, well, it's not said Quran in one place that you drink less drinking, it's not considered good to drink, and then so I can do that. That's not the thing. You have to look at the context of the Quran everywhere, and it's come, and there's a reason behind it was said at that time, because in Arabia, people were heavy drinker. So Allah knows that you cannot stop drinking alcohol suddenly. So it was first given that you should be not uh, advised to drink, and then it was stopped. Correct? This is the right way of taking away. So the point of bringing it up that you have to look at the context of it. You have to look at other places where it is, and understand the exact meaning from it. Not somebody has taken the concept like people take different meaning for different things. So if I'm reading from somebody else's translation, they thought about that. That will lead to confirmation bias, correct? So we need to understand that one too. So Allah has given you akal, Allah has given you iman, Allah will give you hikmah, you know. And with removing the conflicts in your mind at an unconscious level and removing bias, fallacy, and cognitive dissonance, Allah will guide you. Allah is waiting for you to have the best of the best, correct? And then you will start learning. Does it help what I'm trying to make point?
Thank you so much. My second question is that how we learn the Quranic Arabic, because there is 12 million words in Arabic. So how our memory will retain that words and we can apply that real meaning in our life.
So, do you know Allah says very nicely to all the thing. The more harder it is, the more ajr you will get. Do you know that? It means the
Yes,
more, and Allah had made religion easy for you, correct? Allah
yes,
doesn't want you to go through. So if Arabic is not your language, does not mean that you should run away from it. Allah is giving you more good deeds to you for putting the time. Allah is appreciating you, correct? Isn't that a
yes,
good way of going forward? You know, if you have intention of learning Quran with a proper meaning, Allah will guide you, right? And this is what Allah wants you. That come to me, I will help you. Whether you learn the whole or halfway, at least you're doing it the right way. And Allah will guide you, and with Allah's blessing, you will learn everything. But you have to go in a positive way with high self-esteem and all those things. Once you do, Allah will open the doors for you. Allah will open the memory system for you. Correct? Who controls you? Allah controls you. I don't control myself. Correct? My destiny and everything, Allah knows the best. So you have to have a right intention, work hard. You know, during the Huzur's time, the Muslims were working very hard. They didn't had anything, but they worked hard. Means because their self-esteem was so high. They had no money, nothing. You know, Zusam used to eat after 3 days. No regrets, right? So you have to work hard. You don't have to have this self-esteem of the Islamic concept, not the self-esteem what other people says, correct? And then Allah will open up the doors for you. Allah will give you blessings. So don't be afraid that I cannot learn. You know, once you open the door, Allah will open the door for you, correct? Hopefully I answer your question.
okay, thank you so much. Last but not least, the last question is that in Sharia, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, Quran is memorized in our heart. So, what is the concept behind the memorization? Like you said, in mind and heart, that is both
Okay.
different.
So when
So,
somebody has translated into heart, what word is used? In
heart,
the Hussa, in the Quran, what word was used?
I
Arabic word.
didn't remember.
Yes, that's
I
what
didn't.
the issue is. Because majority of places when the qalb word is used in the Quran,
Qalb.
yes, if a word is qalb used, exact context of the meaning is something in the center, something that moves, or something has understanding. That is the exact meaning of the qalb is.
Okay.
Correct? So when you
Yes.
have this meaning, somebody put heart because they thought this is the best replacement of this whole meaning is. So now everybody thinks that become a confirmation bias that they think that way, correct? So you need to understand through the qalb. Allah is saying something in the center of your body or something that moves or something has understanding, correct? So when that's why I'm trying to explain in this presentation that you if you want to understand things, you need a memory system, correct?
Right.
Where is the memory?
In mind,
Means where the
in brain,
neurogenesis is taking place
in brain.
in your body,
Yes.
correct? You need to put two and two together, correct? So Allah is saying something which is in the center. And the other point which I will bring it up, when a person die, the center portion of the body or center is the most important thing, correct? And
Yes.
what is the center? It's the heart or the brain. When
Heart,
did you pronounce somebody dead? It's the heart dies or the brain dies? Which one? That's
brain,
the so which one do you think?
brain die.
Yeah, so brain is the center of the decision making, correct? When the brain
Yes.
dies, the heart dies, correct?
Exactly.
Because when the heart stop beating, when somebody is on cardiac arrest, correct? No pulse, no heartbeat, correct? We shock
Exactly.
them. Why do you shock them? They're already dead. Why? Question yourself. When the heart is not beating for 15 seconds, 20 seconds, no pulse, you keep on shocking them. Why? They are dead. By definition, if you say the heart is the center and it's not doing anything, they're dead. We don't pronounce them dead because the brain is alive. Brain is sending impulse to the. So if the brain is alive, they will shock the person so the heart revive. But when the brain dies, heart will die. That's a legal definition of death is. It was confirmed, means it was legalized in 1981. So all the physicians have to look whether the brain has died or not. If the brain die, pretty much the heart will give up. It's just a matter of time. It's within a minute and 5 minutes, it will keep on going. So, after 10 minutes of no oxygenation, brain will die. So if heart is not pumping for 10 minutes or longer, your chance of survival is very low. It's very rare to survive. So it's always the brain. That's why it's called legally definition of a brain death. There are two exceptions to that. I don't want to go into detail because in medical we know those two exceptions, and when those two exception comes, we have to look into that. That exception is met or not. If that exception, then we have to look whether it's a brain dead or not. Correct? I'm not going to that exception, but that's what it is. So did I answer your question?
Yes. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair.
Fozia Hussain, you can unmute.
Thank you so much. Sir, I just want to ask one thing. As Western is making so much progress, a lot of research and invention. So as you said, if someone keep using akal, Allah give you hikmah. So I just want to ask, is hikmah only associated with the moment or non-believer can have also?
That is with Allah. I am not the one. Correct? Allah can grant hikmah to whoever He decide, but you need akal. You start with akal. Correct? Hikmat is the highest level Allah gives to you, correct? And once you reach to purity, Allah will give you hikmat. Allah is looking for you to get hikmat, right? Allah is not stopping you, right?
Yeah.
Anywhere is written in the Quran, you're not going to get hikmat, only the prophets are getting. No. So hikmat is there for you to grab it. You have to get just the akal. Now, the ilm is different thing. The knowledge is different because knowledge could be good or bad. There are people who have translated Quran. They are the means non-Muslims who are really good in translation. They are good in the studies of Quran. So they have ilm, not akal. Correct? That's the difference. Why they didn't get it? Means they are so good in tell them anything from the Quran, they will tell you. but they're not following the Islamic concept because they have not accepted the Shahada, they have not used the Akal, which is intellect in the righteous pathway to get hikmat. Allah will give you hikmat when you accept Islam and keep on going further in your Akal. Allah will give you hikmat. Who He gives, I don't know. It's between you and Allah.
That's
But
right.
I wish everybody gets it.
Yeah. So I just want to ask one thing. According to your speech, means so it's a chain like knowledge, memory, or memory come first, then knowledge, then akul, and then hikmah.
Dekho, let me explain. Memory is everywhere. You know, when you have knowledge, you have memory. Okay? This is it. You know, if, for instance, people with memory problems, correct? Alzheimer disease, talk to them. They don't know the names because they have no memory, correct? They will forget the names, they will forget where they're living, what they're doing. So you take away the memory, everything is gone. Knowledge is gone. So memory is there in akal, memory is there in knowledge, right? How are you using the memory system? If you're using without the shahada, you know, without the intention, it's a knowledge, right? You can have good and bad knowledge. I mean, so there are genius people out there with exceptional done in whatever the academic fields they are, correct? That's knowledge. But akal is a Quranic concept saying intellect, you have an intellect going in a right pathway. It's actually what I said, the context is a rope pulling in a right direction. That is the exact meaning of the akal is what the Quran, which is the Fusa, is telling you. So this is different than the knowledge is. So once you have akal, and if you keep on striving to be a better person, then Allah will give you hikmah. You know, Allah is there for you, correct? So hopefully we all get hikmah, and that should be the try. You know, that should be our goal, is to get hikmah. So we are better Muslims. So we have higher self-esteem. Tell me one thing who has hikmah and has low self-esteem. No, I don't know anybody who has hikmat has low self-esteem. Look at the Sahabas. Look at the moments and all those things. They have some sort of hikmat and they have high self-esteem. So it's a thing that get the akal as much as possible, and then Allah will give you hikmat and go. But with the people with akal also have high self-esteem. So just get the akal and work on your biases, fallacies, and cognitive dissonance to remove that. So you go to a nafs mutmainna and you don't have ego conflicts. The rule will help you because you have fitra, correct? Allah has given you the blueprints, correct? So when you have a blueprint, you have a memory, Allah is there for you. You do prayers. Allah is watching you, your prayers, correct? Looking for how good you are doing it, correct? Giving opportunity 5 times. How much are we looking forward for our prayers? We are the one running away from the prayer. Allah is watching you when this person will pray really nicely, so I can remember. So the Sahaba used to compete with each other, correct? This was their self-esteem, and they say, if you're doing, I will do more, right? They compete with us. On the other hand, we are running away from our prayers. We are running away from good deeds, correct? So what is that? What our nafs is going to, nafs lawama amara, correct? We are going in that direction. So we need to change our nafs to nafs mutmainna. And to do that, this is how we can do. Hopefully I answer your question.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Rabia Hussain can ask you a question if you can unmute.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum Assalam.
Actually, I have 3 questions in mind. I will one by one.
Okay,
Very
before we do,
first
can we go to the slide which has nafs, ruh, and qalb with all the things? Can you go
Yes,
back?
yes.
Yes, just keep it over there.
Uh, kindly explain little bit about healthy ego. What do you
Healthy.
mean by ego? Yes, yes.
So we have the ego, which is
Yes.
I think, and a lot of people also think this is similar to cult, correct? So when we say healthy ego means you have an ego conflict, but they are healthy. Means you have healthy defense mechanism you're using. When you're using healthy defense mechanism like altruism, hai, humor, hai, and all those things, you are not affected by your id that makes you go in narcissism and all those things, correct? You are strongly affected by your superego or the rule and taking in a positive way, right? That is called healthy or mature defense mechanism or healthy ego. And the ego lies in your mind or in your cult. Does it make sense?
Little bit.
Okay, you need to watch the previous video. I went into minor detail on that one in the second one.
Okay. My second question is that you say brain control the heart. Kindly explain little bit how it works.
Okay.
Brain.
Okay. I explained previously right now that when a person is pronounced dead, the brain is the one is helping, correct? When the person dies, or for instance, when there's a, cardiac arrest and there's no heartbeat, correct?
Yes.
Or no pulse. If you say heart is controlling, then why we shock the heart?
Uh, uh, what the role brain plays to control the heart?
Because brain is connected to your heart. Brain is connected to throughout your body. So which is the center of your body? Is the brain or heart? That's the issue, correct? So when we say brain is the one that is the center of the body, it controls all the organs of the body. Heart is one of them, correct? So
Okay.
that's why brain controls the heart.
Okay. My third question is that, according to your opinion, what is the difference between Kalb and Sadr? Because Sir Zaryab Hashmi, younger brother of Sir Sahil, say that Ruh is located in the Sadr instead of Kalb. He referred a dua of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li
Correct.
amri. Yes.
So Sadr is also, there are other people who have taken a different meaning, and it's means it's a has a more emotional content with your ego. That is what other people have taken, correct? So everybody has a different meaning behind that. I take it's in your mind, the Sadr.
Kalb and Sadr, same, as per
Same.
your perspective.
Yes.
Okay.
According to me, Wallahu Alam.
Okay.
Yes, Abdullah Chaudhry, you can unmute.
Sir, you mentioned different stages like Akal, Ilm, and other. Where do we fit in the guidance, the word that we use, Hidayat? Where exactly does it fit in?
Dias is a common terminology used, the right guidance, correct? You can use guidance for the knowledge as well as for akal. It's just reading a book, a good book is a guidance, correct? Quran is the ultimate guidance. If it's the best, is the best guidance. So it helps your understanding to go in a right direction, correct? Now it's up to your conscious and unconscious mind how you perceive that guidance, correct? So for give you example, Quran is the best guidance, correct?
Right.
So how you going to perceive Quran? And the question comes, why we are taking so long? People have 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, but they are still behind, correct? They have not even
Mm-hmm.
captured it. So the guidance is there, but you have not captured it, correct? And some people
Mm-hmm.
have not never captured it and they go to the graves, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So it's up to us to correct our shortcomings, correct? That's the
Mm-hmm.
first thing. How do you correct your shortcoming? Is look into your conscious and unconscious mind, especially your unconscious mind. If you have biases, fallacies, cognitive dissonance, and ego conflict, you're not going to take guidance. you will be very resistant. Oh, is this this is something I will apply tomorrow, or this it does not make sense to me right now. Correct. So the guidance in the Quran is there, but you are not accepting it. You're not trusting it because your unconscious mind is not ready for it. Correct. As I mentioned to you in the previous presentation, 60 to 80% of your input is coming from your unconscious mind. Correct. So your unconscious mind is not ready, and when it's not ready, you're not going to accept 100%. That is the difference between the Sahaba and the, moments that they're ready to accept that information. Once you accept the information, the guidance will go take you to a highest level. The Quran is there for you. The Sirah is there for you. But why can't we get the guidance? Because of our shortcoming. Because we have all these systems, we have ego conflicts, we have all those conflicts sitting there. So the goal of this presentation is to identify where our shortcomings are. When we identify a shortcoming, you fix your shortcoming based on yourself. Your shortcoming may be different than my shortcoming, correct? I cannot tell what are your shortcomings. But once you know these are the shortcomings, then you can work on it. Once you work on it, the guidance will help you go higher. Does it make sense to
Mm.
you?
Yeah, but sir, there's a very famous ayah in Quran which says, whoever Allah wants give hidayah, and whoever doesn't. So don't you think so? This like contradicts of what you have explained.
No. Allah, okay, and that's a good question. So Allah give you hidayah to everyone, correct? Did Allah give hidayah to Shaitan? Allah told everything, but he was arrogant. Once you become arrogance and narcissistic, you won't get hidayah. Do you
Mm-hmm.
understand? That's the concept between empathy and arrogance. This is what
Okay.
Quran talks about. You have to develop empathy. You have to understand this way. If you are narcissistic, will you understand Quran better than somebody who has empathy? Because the whole concept of Islamic concept is based on empathy. Correct? Why you do
Mm-hmm.
zakat? If you have narcissism, will you do zakat? Of course not. You will say the least amount because you don't have empathy. Why you do other things? Islam is all about empathy and compassion. So those people who don't have empathy and compassion, who are totally arrogant, Abu Jahl, or all those people who have ego conflict, they're not going to get better. Because Huzur Sallam used to cry to make it happen, and Allah told him, don't try. Don't try because they have closed their heart. Correct? Heart means they're thinking wise. They have closed it. They're not going to listen to you. So don't waste your time. Do your job and Allah will make it for the people who wants to. If the people don't want to do with arrogance, Allah is not going to help them. So it's up to you, up to us to do that. This presentation is just to identify what our shortcoming means, my shortcoming, your shortcoming, or anybody's shortcoming. These are the shortcomings we have. If we identify, we can rectify it. When we rectify, our self-esteem goes up. That is what I'm trying to explain. Hopefully, I answer your question.
Yeah, Jazakallah.
Yes, the next person is Zabit.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
So there's this concept of taqwa which is very central to Islam, and it's been mentioned again and again in Quran. And this thing has always fascinated me that it's linked with the fear, and there are two kinds of fear which we can
What do you mean
categorize now.
fair?
I mean, when Allah talks about taqwa, it's actually the fear, of Allah when a person is about to do something wrong, right?
Okay. Okay, go
So
ahead.
there's a kind of fear when the game of survival is triggered. It makes you blind, and it will make you do things which a sane person won't even do. And then there are verses in the Quran where Allah says that this is the real iman, when you fear Allah. So I mean, it gets you into some dissonance at several points, but I would love to have your insights on the effect of these two kinds of fears on all of these elements. I mean, how
So
do
you
you
have,
differentiate this? Because there is the fear of Allah which actually enlightens you and you feel it afterwards. And there's a general fear of the things which actually makes you dumb.
okay, so you're talking about fear.
Fear, yeah.
Yeah.
FEAR. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. I'm trying to figure out what the exact your fear of Allah and fear of obvious thing, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay, and this is a good one. Okay, I'm glad you asked this question. Dekho, fear of Allah, do you see Allah? No, correct? And this is where
Hmm.
we came from, correct? We were in Alame Arwa. We took the oath with Allah, correct? Aru took the oath,
Yeah.
correct? We solemnly oath. We raise our hand that we are going to earth, correct? And we are sent here with nafs and qalb here. And there we go, correct? Now, where is your faith lies? Faith is invisible. Trust in Allah. When you see the earth, you see Allah's blessing, you see Allah's creation. Give me one, and this is a good example, I will tell you. You have you seen the EKG or means electrical heartbeat of human body, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen it? Okay. Now tell me how many people are in this world, and now all the healthy people have the same EKG, correct?
Hmm.
PQRST waves, correct?
ST. Yeah.
Everybody is. Can you explain why all the billions of people have the same EKG? Can you create that? I cannot create the double copy and billions. Isn't that Allah tells the belief that there's existence of Allah? This is the
Yeah.
invisible truth comes out that Allah exists. So many, why the sun rise from there, correct? So many, everything you see means your human body, how it works. If you read the physiology, anatomy, and biochemistry, there's a whole system running in your system. Every to the level, extreme level. How can you have billions of people healthy have the same thing? That's give you the trust of Allah, that there is Allah there, correct? The faith comes. This is invisible, but you can see it through your faith, correct? And then you change your direction towards Allah because you can do sin anytime when nobody is present, but your faith will stop you, correct? There is Allah there. Now, the fear of seeing people is visible, correct? That is at a conscious level. So you may do or not depending on situation, but when there is nobody, the trust with Allah, the faith of Allah will protect you. It depends on your faith. Does it answer your question?
I'm a little confused.
Okay.
Maybe I wasn't able to put my question. So see, if we see the general patterns of the fear in humans,
Uh-huh.
we see that whenever the fear is triggered in a human being, whenever the amygdala senses it, right, the
Uh-huh.
danger and the fear, uh, it makes them some sort of dumb.
Correct.
Yeah, right. And when
Yes.
Allah talks about the fear, what it does afterwards is that it enlightens you.
Okay.
I mean, that
Got
is
it.
that is something which is a different pattern than the general pattern. So
Got it.
what effects does this kind of fear has on these elements? That is what strikes me.
Okay. So the fear which you see coming from amygdala, correct? You see a
Yeah,
car coming towards you. You have a fear, right? Or
yeah,
some, correct? That really, when it triggers your frontal lobe, where executive decision is really cut off, because when you have a fear, amygdala goes to hypothalamus and you have an automatic reaction, run or react, correct? That is a fear concept. Got it? This
yep.
is where it is. Now, when Allah talks about the fear, Allah talks about reward and punishment, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's a different fear, correct? Allah is guiding you. Allah is not throwing you into Jahannam, correct? Allah is telling you this thing, that this is there for you. You have the time. Fix yourself, correct? So that fear is not threatening you, correct? That is guiding you. If you keep on doing it, this is where you will go. So that fear is not immediate, correct? Then your frontal lobe will start working because it does not feel the threat. correct? That fear, you analyze it, you have a critical decision making, and then you come up with a solution. Do you understand? It's not the survival mode when Allah is talking to you because you're living. You're not going to hell the next second, correct? So that is a different fear. When a tiger attacks you is an immediate attack, right? That fear is different because your survival of life is there on this second, correct? So do you understand these two fears are different? Do you get my point?
Yeah, absolutely. So, can we also say that this kind of fear uh, actually suppresses the whispers of the mind, the thoughts which actually make you do the sin? It also suppresses your nafs or disciplines it.
Yes, because it's not immediate and your frontal lobe is working, is guiding you that if you do, like for instance, fear of failing the exam. You know, you just joined the school and you have an exam a year from now. You have a fear, but it's not going to happen that day. You have a 6 months or a year to go. So you work on it, correct? As compared
Yeah,
to if
right.
I throw a test right now when I give, you join the school and I say, okay, let's do the test now. That's a different fear, correct? It's immediate fear. If I fail, I will be kicked out, right? So its
Mm-hmm.
level of fear is it affecting you on the spot or is guiding you that this will happen if you don't and you have time period, correct? So that fear will guide your akal to go into a reward phenomena to correct autocorrect yourself, correct? That is
Yeah.
different fear. And then your frontal lobe is working with the critical decision making and you correct your ego conflicts and your all those biases and fallacies to make sure that you got the reward, not the punishment. Do you understand my concept?
Yes. So there's one more thing. If you just allow me a small question relate to this.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the essence of iman is linked with the taqwa, right?
Correct.
And Allah says in the Quran that you cannot claim someone to have iman because only Allah knows who has, the amount and intensity of the taqwa towards Allah.
Correct.
So, and at the same time, we know that akal is important, intellect is important, hikmah is important, qalb is important. So, can we say that one thing that actually triggers all of these things to work in the righteous way is actually this fear?
The fear leading to?
The,
Well,
the taqwa of
okay.
Allah. Yeah.
Taqwa of Allah does
It actually
help
stimulates these elements.
but you need akal also, correct?
Yeah.
Because akal will lead you towards taqwa, correct?
Right.
You need a memory system to understand the Quran, understand the depth of Quran to have a critical decision making to develop a good taqwa. That way, then the hikmat will come, correct? It will resolve your ego conflicts you're sitting with that. So it will help your nafs to under control. So you go to nafs mutmainna, correct? And then you have a super ego or the ruh concept really guiding your qalb to go in the right direction. Has that make sense to you?
Yes, sir. Getting it now.
Okay. Jazakallah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Razeen Khan, if you can ask your question, go ahead.
My question is like qalb is in the center, so a Muslim should have a faith in the qalb, and like how does it affect the pathway if the person having a faith in the qalb and the other person has no faith in the qalb, and the person who has a faith has the ultimate destination of getting the Jannah. Having said the other one has like they are doing it for worldly purposes, like to get fame, to get money. So how it affect this pathway that you just showed it to us? The
This was explained
Vedas.
in my first presentation that even a non Muslim can have high self esteem, correct?
Okay,
Because their self-esteem concept is different in psychology versus self-esteem concept in Islam, correct?
right.
So there you that's the answer. So they will be happy. Farhan has a high self-esteem all his life, where he is right now. Bottom of the earth, nobody cares.
But you said a person having arrogance cannot have a high self-esteem.
No, they cannot have, they have inflated self-esteem.
Okay.
They
Okay.
look like they have high self-esteem, but actually they have inflated self-esteem. Based on psychology and psychiatry, we call it inflated self-esteem. You know, inflate a balloon so it looks
Right.
bigger. They
Mm-hmm.
don't look like they have, but in fact, they have a very fragile self-esteem. In fact, their ego is very fragile, and they are protecting their ego as much as possible because they are so worried about them. So they do everything to protect their ego. That's in narcissism. You have to develop empathy and compassion to have a high self-esteem. That's a very important concept to develop.
So,
But that's a good.
inflated self-esteem is different from the high self-esteem.
Say it again.
The inflated self-esteem is not a high self-esteem.
No, inflated self-esteem is a very fragile, low self-esteem. You know, you just inflate from a lowest to highest, it looks bigger, but it's a very fragile self-esteem. That's why I call inflated self-esteem. It looks like bigger, but it's not actually bigger. It's very crushed. It's
Okay.
not a high self-esteem. People with narcissism have this inflated self-esteem. They have self-serving biases, inflated self-esteem, and then they have narcissism.
But you said that Varun also has a high inflated self-esteem actually.
Yeah.
So he has no faith in his sculpt. So
No.
like, okay.
But
Okay.
remember, self-esteem concept is where your concept is coming from, psychology or from Islam.
I
Right?
wanted to ask you Islamic perspective.
So that was discussed in the first presentation in detail and how you differentiate and where we go. So please review the first presentation.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Umar Khan, if you can ask the question.
I have the fourth question. Thank you so much for giving me time.
No, you're
So
welcome.
I have an ayat and an hadith. So some words which I want some detail about it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran, Surah Al-Mu'min, وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمُ ادْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ. So the hadith is ad-du'a mukhul ibadah. So these two one ayat and hadith is come from Sharia, and in our era, in this era, dua, law of attraction, manifestation, and how its impact on our faith. So dua is mukhul ibadah.
Yes, dua is ultimate for you, but we take
Yes.
it a wrong meaning behind that. And I will tell you why. And this is very important to understand. And you can answer your question by this way. So the incident of Jange Uhud, correct?
Yes,
Huzur made the dua, correct? Sahaba
exactly.
made the dua. What happened in Jange Uhud? Correct? You got the answer.
Yes.
Dua is ultimate, but there was something missing in that thing, correct? So if you miss that, Allah will accept the dua for some other reason, for other time, but not at that time, correct?
Exactly.
So we overemphasize on dua, which I understand dua is ultimate, but Allah also wants you to do yourself too, or we would have won the Jang-e-Uhud, correct? So it's very important to understand we can do dua every day, and that's the most important thing. I will say ultimate thing. But Allah also wants you to do all the thing. It doesn't matter how pious you are. You have to do it. Then Allah will help you. But if you don't do it, then expect the dua to do the miracle, then it's up to Allah to decide whether it's worth it or not. This is between Allah and you, correct? This is my concept. Does it answer your question?
Yes. Little bit explain about the law of attraction and manifestation. How it is something like dua or something else.
Repeat the question. Law of
As
attraction.
attraction and manifestation.
In what context are you asking?
Like we see on YouTube, there is so many things to achieve. So you they said manifest them, write them, and remind them daily. And the law of attraction, the world sends your desires, and they will give you.
So, law of attraction going through your nerves, correct?
Yes,
And the nerves wants its way to enjoy the life, correct?
exactly.
Okay. And nerves are having a big fight with your Ruh, correct?
Yes,
Who is controlling right now? The nerves or the Ruh?
nerves.
Nerves. And where the control is? On your calf. Calf has to make a
Exactly,
decision, correct?
exactly.
So when it's attracted and nerves is so strong and the Ruh cannot convince the calf, the nerves wins, correct? You have to develop strong calf. So the Ruh concept is completely transparent into your calf, and your akal will help you to get into the direction, and hopefully your hikmat that will help you, provided you have no ego conflicts along with no biases, fallacy, and cognitive dissonance. Does that answer your question?
Yes. One more thing in this slide, where is ilm, knowledge, good, evil. What is the meaning of
Correct.
good and evil? How
So
it's
read. Okay. So when you read a book, a good book, correct? It has
okay,
good things and the bad things, correct? How you're using it. You know, you have
okay,
money, you earn money or whatever. How you use it for a good reason or a bad reason. You have science you can use for good reason or bad reason. You have all the other things you can use for good and bad, correct? It's just a
uh,
knowledge.
okay, okay. Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair. I'm
Shukriya.
done.
Okay, I think we have one more person, Mohammed Anis. Can you unmute? And let me remind everyone, I have shared a feedback form. If you can please fill that in for Dr. Najeeb, he can plan the next session using that. Mohammed Anis.
My question is, in which situation or activity does a bad ego arise?
Well, it's a situation that is controlled by your nafs.
Okay, it's
So
totally
when your
on.
nafs controls you to a mara direction and it's strongly influencing on that, then your qalb is not, means it's not getting any direction, means it's only going to amara, because the qalb is ruh is very weak and nafs is very strong, and you have an ego conflict going on, so you're going to nafs amara, correct?
Okay, okay. So in children, how it's work like?
Okay,
They
so
don't know about enough. So how can I control or
good. Okay, so in my first presentation I went into the detail when your actually your it is developed at the time of birth. Okay, ego develop a few months after your birth in a kid, and the super ego develop at the age of 6 and onward, correct? So as you see that in the first 5 or 6 years, they need what they want, they are not, means they are needs everything, correct? The nafs is controlling, and that's fine because the kid is too young to understand, has not mature enough, correct? So that's fine, you have to guide them. They are also watching you too. So if they see the parent doing wrong thing, that's all they're learning, right? So you make sure that you are the role model to them, because they're absorbing everything they are seeing or hearing, correct? This is the education they're getting from you, and they're developing this personality and all those things. They have narcissism when they are in the first 5 6 years. Then the empathy component comes in at the age of 6 onwards, correct? And that needs to be developed. If they don't develop empathy component, we have a problem. By the age of 8 or 9, if you have not developed empathy component, which is they don't care about their sibling or their parents or their relatives, then you know that they have narcissism sitting there. They are so you need to be cognizant about it. That why my kid after the age of 6 is still what he was before. What I am doing at home or where my kid is going is learning what. So you can auto-correct the person or the kid early on. Then wait till your kid is 15 years old, and then you realize, oh my gosh, he has all the bad character. Well, it started out since the age of 6 onward. You didn't correct that. So it's very important to understand human psychology, the child psychology, from psychiatry point of view. That what helps them to identify early so they don't develop those concepts. If you don't develop empathy, you will have difficulty understanding Islam, because Islam is all about compassion and empathy. If you have narcissism all the time, you will have difficulty following Islam because you will be like narcissistic. Means Muslims are narcissistic, and some people are narcissistic, but then the level of empathy, the lesser, they have difficulty. So it's very important to develop like Huzur Sassam or Sahabas and all those, and they're full of empathy and compassion, correct? So it's very important to understand from that point of view. Hopefully, I answer your question.
Yeah, great. My second question is, Shaitan have just akal or hikmah also?
Shaitan has akal or hikmah? He does
And
not have hikmah, correct? He cannot have hikmah. If he has hikmah, he would not be a shaitan, correct? By
uh,
default.
like before that moment, they tell I don't uh, like.
Before he declined to bow down,
Yeah,
correct? Okay,
yeah, yeah.
fine. Okay. What happened at that time? He has narcissism, correct? He think he's the best one. Shaitan, when he was praying to Allah, he had something in his unconscious mind. Allah only knows it. Farishte even didn't know about that. What was he thinking? And Allah said that I will expose this shaitan. And when Allah brought this incident, because Allah knows what is in unconscious mind, it got exposed because he wants to be the one. He didn't want Hazrat Adam al-Islam or Zeus to be the one, correct? He wants to be, correct? He has narcissism, correct? And that got exposed. So he didn't have
Okay.
akal. He
So,
has just a knowledge.
if you have we have hikmah, so Shaitan not uh, attacking like they are with full power. Like, you
Shaitan will
understand me?
do everything to you. You are till your last breath. Shaitan will go again and again, even at the last moment when your soul is taken out. Shaitan will do the best so that you can change your religion.
Okay.
Shaitan is going every second to you. Remember, Allah has told you he's an open enemy to you. It cannot be overridden. He's an open enemy to you. Every second he's there for you. He gives you thought process. He gives you how to get out of following the Islamic concept, correct? And you entertain them, shaitan is happy. So shaitan is always there. So the hikmat and the akal will guide you so that you remain in the concept of the Ruh concept, which is your fitra, correct? And your qalb is so strong, your nafs will go to nafs mutmainna, and your ego conflict will be the least or mature ego conflict. Hopefully, I answer your question.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Okay, looks like that was the last person asking questions, and I think it's been 90 minutes. So
Okay, good.
thank you so much, Jazakallah, Dr. Najeeb. I have shared the form. Please, everyone, fill that in. And yes, thank you for attending.
Shukriya. I am thankful for Allah for giving me chance to give my what I know. Wallahu alam. Allah knows the best. But this is I'm combining psychiatry and psychology with Islam, so you have a better understanding. Wallahu alam. Allah knows the best. And I'm hope I didn't make any mistakes. If I did, I ask for forgiveness from Allah. Okay. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Okay. Allah Hafiz.
Jazakallah. Allah.